Howdy folks, Rudrose here, and today I get to recap my second set championship victory in a row, this time for set 7, as you can see right here, right at the top. We got old Rudrose there, and man, did I have a good, clean day where I didn't end up dropping a single round. I was able to essentially, you can see my individual game record here out of a total of 12 games. I ended up dropping 2 individual games, but rounds, nope, I was a clean 5-0. So this is at a lovely location called Forge and Fire. There was 14 people total, and with that, they were doing it kind of different. So normally you would have 4 rounds with this amount of people, but they actually just did 3. And beforehand, they were like, "Do we want to do best of 2, best of 3?" And we ended on best of 3, which was very important for me. So I took my bread and butter Ruby Amethyst. This is a deck I've been playing a very long time. In this particular version, I've been playing most of this set, especially since the bans have happened. So I'm just going to give you a quick little insight, quick little tournament recap about how it went. First, I just want to break down the tournament. So in round 1, I faced a Blorple. It was actually this player who ended up making top 4. And it was, I felt like I was in pretty good control for most of the match, even when I had to go second. This was one of the first games I dropped. I won the first game, I felt like pretty convincingly, but game 2. So they get to this point where they had 2 lucky dimes on board, and they played Bell, Strange but Special, hits her with both dimes, immediately gains 10 lore, goes all the way up to 10 from nothing or 14. But they have nothing in hand, and I've got a board with 3 locations and goats and everything else, and I'm thinking, well, I banished the Bell, I hit it with, I believe it was a Dragonfire. And it's like, what could they possibly top deck to win in this situation? Well, the answer was another Bell, Strange but Special, immediately tap it with both dimes, gain 10 more lore, win the game. Wasn't overly pleased about that, but that's okay. Came back in game 3, won that one. Round 2, I was against a Ruby Steel Challenger list that had actually won in round 1. But I was able to handle that one pretty effectively, just kind of navigated around the cards. The thing about that deck, as much as I love this color combination, it just lacks card draw, and that's essentially what happened. And I'm playing Amethyst and a heavy card draw version of Amethyst, so, how can you play the game when you're top decking and I have 7 cards in hand? So was able to beat up on that one, and then round 3 was Chernadogs, and this one was the other time I dropped a game. So I won the die roll, thank goodness, because you absolutely need to be going first against these aggro decks. This wasn't the exact list, I'm just showing it as an example. But yeah, I had to really use my Brawls and my Elsas, and the castle was pretty key there as I got to sit there and keep gaining lore. And I was just trying to keep them away from 20. Game 2 was just a complete stomp and blowout. So not only did I go second, my mulligan was so bad. My cheapest card was 3-cost Sisu. So I couldn't play a card till turn 3, and my opponent just hit the absolute gas with, I think it was like Merfolk into Piglet. Yeah, the Piglet's not in this version, but the version I was playing had Piglet. So it was like Merfolk, Piglet, and then turn 3, it was like 3-1. It was like Daisy, Merfolk. They legit knocked me out in 4 turns. They dropped the big tramp after that and did the cycle. And then I was Ink pass, Sisu pass. It was rough. Luckily, then, it came back to me on the play, and I was able to get it. That one was a little more in control, too. So, made it to Top Cut. I was the number 1 seed. And then first, I had a rematch against the purple player. This time, knowing that the Bell and the dimes were there, I was at least a little more cognizant of it. Was able to win that pretty efficiently. Blorple didn't end up giving me too many issues. And then went on to Top Cut against Steel Song. And this is arguably one of our worst matchups on Ruby Amethyst, maybe only second to Discard. But same thing, it's just characters that can sing songs for free. This, of course, again, not the exact list, just a reference. The version I played actually was a bit different. It was not a traditional Steel Song as you kind of see here on the field. It was actually a mix of songs and characters. Was pretty interesting because it utilized this Kristoff as well as Chernabog. So whether they had a discard pile full of songs or characters, they had these big bodies they could just slap down for free, which was pretty nice. So that one was a little dicey. Luckily, opponent they didn't brick so much. They drew 3 Whole New Worlds in their opening, so when they sang Whole New World, 2 of the others were already gone, which kind of gave me the green light of like, okay, well, the likely chance they're not going to have another one. And then in game 2 was definitely a lot closer. We were fighting back and forth, and there was this pivotal turn where they used a Bare Necessities to rip a Be Prepared out of my hand, and then thinking they were safe, went wide to bring out Kristoff, just went as wide as they could on the board, and I had a Queen's Castle and library sitting there, but luckily I had a Diablo or something that got banished in the library, drew 2 cards, and one of them was another Be Prepared, so I wiped their board with 2 locations sitting there, and it was pretty much over after that. So it was fun. It was a really good, solid day, and I was very pleased with how I played. There was only one massive mistake I made, and I guess you wouldn't say massive in the sense that it didn't really even end up costing me, but it was just a blunder. I had a move where I forgot to move the broom to the library before I banished it, and I played a character and banished it, so I only got 1 draw off of it instead of 2. Again, it's not like it cost me the game or anything, but it was like, oh, darn it, I messed that up. Like, I should have moved it to the library first. So, great day. I was very happy to get my hero playmat, especially with the loss of the second playmat. And I'll take a quick moment to talk about that before I go into the deck. Ravensburger, if you're listening, you must add prizing for second place at minimum. Ideally, there should be prizing for every level you have to go through. So if you cut to a top 8, you know, the quarterfinals, there should be a prize for that, which currently it is, right? It's the hero, or it's whatever the enchanted foil version of whatever that set's card is. Okay, but then when you make it to the semifinals, top 4, there needs to be a prize for that as well. And then when you make it to the finals, there should be a prize no matter how you finish. You should not have to go first to walk away with a prize from this. It is absurd that second place gets the same pricing as 8th place when they had to fight through 2 more rounds and then duke it out with the ultimate winner. That's just not okay. And if for whatever reason you just don't want to do the second playmat again, which I don't know why, but give them something, a special card, a pin, a Lorcana pin, a deck box, anything. There needs to be a prize and a reward for making it further and further in a tournament. And I cannot imagine the deflating feeling of playing in one of these set championships, getting all the way to the finals, but because you didn't win, you walk away with the same as somebody who got 8th place. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. And I'll be honest, if it keeps going this way, I think eventually it will start to steer people away from competing in them. I was very happy because I won, but even with that, I felt for my opponent, who was such a nice guy, and I was like, that's not fair. Again, give him something, a deck box, a storage box, a special pin, a special promo, like something. What are we doing here? That rant aside, I'm going to go over what I have in my Ruby Amethyst deck. I'm not going to go super in-depth because a lot of this are known factors. Where I play locally, there is a lot of red-blue, so I have very much teched this deck for red-blue, trying to answer it and be aware of it, which is why I'm going to talk about some of the cards you maybe haven't seen in a while, a big one being Dragonfire. I'll be honest, I don't like Dragonfire. I still don't think this card is good, but I do think it's quite necessary right now, given the state of the game, because our big removal spells are Lady Tremaine and Madame Medusa. The problem being, again, if I'm going against red-blue a lot, look at a red-blue list like this. What does what does Madame Medusa hit? 2 cards. Tipo, no thanks. And Tala, no thanks. 2 cards that the moment they're played have already done everything they're going to do and they don't matter. It was kind of okay when you could hit Flaversham because he was offering continuous value, but I don't want to spend Medusa on these, and we don't have a way to manipulate strength, so most of the cards in this deck are immune to Medusa. So Tremaine's a little better, which is why I have her as a one of, as if they ever bring down a solo Maui or a solo Tamatoa, at least Tremaine can knock that out. But then the exact opposite is true when you're facing a deck like Turnidogs, or any of the steel decks. Medusa at least can hit Tragic Beast or Robin Hood or Rapunzel or any of those cards. Well, Tremaine, when they take the board that wide, she can't. So I feel like both of these cards are just in a very weird spot. And unless you absolutely know what you're going to be running against, I just don't really see how you pick one over the other. Well, I know I'm running against red-blue a lot, so I pick those. So enter Dragonfire. We need a card that outright says, get a character off the field. Here are our choices. If we type in banish chosen character, we're going to get a lot of stuff that has conditions. We don't want conditions. I need a card that says, oh, there's a Maui Shark. I need to get rid of it right now. There's a Tamatoa 8. I need to get rid of it right now. It's not exerted, anything like that. It must go this turn. So here are our options. Again, we don't want costs. We don't want restrictions. Out of order, awful. Energy Blast, awful. Dragonfire, not great, but the best of the 3, and Maleficent Dragon. And we have no ramp, so I'm not using this card till turn 9, which means in any other match that's not grindy, this card is worthless. So it essentially just leaves Dragonfire. It doesn't feel great. I don't love it. I'm still grateful to have it just because we need a way to be able to spot remove these big threats, but that's it. anything else on here, Prince Eric, Glimmer versus Glimmer, the Hades, it all has these conditions. Well, if what if I don't have a character? I can't wait a turn to put Eric down and then banish him later. I need that thing to go right now. So yeah, and Out of Order and Energy Blaster is way too expensive, so Dragonfire is the absolute cheapest. You can see Brawl right here. Brawl has never felt worse because it's so split, right? So I mentioned those matches earlier. Against the Turnidogs match, Brawl was great, and it was everything I've always wanted it to be. Again, let's look at Red-Blue. What does Brawl hit? Legit one card Tipo. Do I want to Brawl a Tipo? No, absolutely not. Even against something like Steel Song, Brawl has more targets. It can at least hit Ariel, can at least hit Rapunzel or Cinderella, but can't touch Lawrence, can't touch Pete, can't touch Smee, can't touch anything like a Sven, Simba if they're running this. The purple decks, if they're playing Goat, Fox, can't hit any of those cards. So while Brawl isn't completely worthless, and at least it's inkable, unlike Dragonfire, it has felt worse and worse these days than ever before. And again, when you play at a locals full of red-blue, it's I essentially ink it. I've gotten to the point of like, oh, Brawl, okay, that's an easy ink card. So we just needed some of that spot removal. Be prepared. You have to run 4 of these. I cannot see how 3 is the right answer unless you're also running Sisu. But again, Big Sisu is really good if you happen to run against aggro. This card allowed me to get to the finals in my previous set championship that I won because it stopped a Diggy Diggy Hold deck dead in its tracks when I banished, I think, 6-7 characters in one shifted fell swoop. The problem is, again, if I'm playing against a deck like this, there's so many targets it doesn't hit. Same with even this version, Steel Song. Just like Brawl, there's some things it'll hit, but some things it don't. So I just found Sisu too unreliable. Other than that, Merlin Min package, I'm not going to go over that. That's all pretty standard. Other than the fact that I value Fox more. Yes, it's a little more expensive than Snake, but the rush is super duper important, especially against aggro matchups. I still think Snake has its worth. I do enjoy being able to Snake Goat bounce, Snake Rabbit bounce, Snake bounce back Tremaine, especially since we only run 1. I think Diablo is especially important right now. If you're anticipating any kind of steal, you need a card that you can put out, and then if it gets banished, okay, no worries. Chernobog and Broom, I go back and forth on all the time, so I just have a split of 2-2. You can 100% just go for 4 of them if you like that. Same with Cusco. This version just can draw so many cards between all these 1-drops and 2-drops. And what I love about these cards is, unlike most 1-drops, let's look back at one of these lists, I don't really want to see a Cinderella in the late game if I'm losing and trying to come from behind. I don't want to see a Tipo in the late game in this deck. That doesn't really help me do anything, but these cards, because they can all replace themselves and they work wonderfully with the library, love them. Same with the Cusco. So it's just card draw, card draw, card draw, and that's how I win through advantage. Sisu down to 3. She doesn't quite have that role where she needed Flynn Rider to protect anymore, but she's still just a solid card with good willpower, which makes her good against Steel. She's almost always going to trade into something. She can sing Friends, Quest for 2. Solid card on a round. Crab is just like Tremaine. When he does exactly what you want him to do, he's the best card in the deck. He's amazing. And then when he doesn't, he's just a 3-body that you just put out and doesn't feel good. Pan, I don't love Pan. As you can see, this is not the evasive version, so Pan is not enabling any kind of crazy shenanigans. Technically, because I am running a Fishhook, anything I would give evasive to, if a Pan is on the board, they can immediately have Rush, so that's kind of cool, but that doesn't really come up. However, he's just a card with Rush, which is always useful. He can hit evasives, so a Peter Pan with a Fishhook buff, which I've used a lot, or a Peter Pan with a Crab buff, can take out an opposing Maui Shark. That is very, very useful. So even though I don't love the card, especially in this version, it does do enough that it does justify its spot, and I have been happy with it overall. The Queen, same as a one of. She's just like Crab and Tremaine. When she's great, and I really like her, and you can get that 4 lure out of nowhere, and you can send that Lilo to the bottom of the deck, or their items or their actions that they're trying to recur. But then a lot of times she just becomes ink because she's just too slow. I can't afford to put her out there into a board she's instantly going to get bopped by a song. Or sometimes I'll draw this card early, and almost always turn 4 is way too early for this card. They will not have enough cards in the discard to even use her effect. So great when she's great, and not so great not. Maui and Elsa, there are times I wish I had a couple more Elsa just because the effect is quite strong. I do like her with Fishhook, as again she can solo take out a Maui if she gets the Challenger +3 from this. Same with Maui. Sometimes you just need him to beat down a McDuck Manor. I actually was able to beat down a Chernabog with him. I think might have been against the top guy because I dropped the fish hook as a surprise. He didn't know I had it in the deck, and Maui just went toe to toe with a Chernabog 9-on-9. Bam! So just good solid cards. Nothing insane here. Talked about Dragonfire Brawl. Friends, Be Prepared Classic. Fish hook, fish hook, fish hook. If you look back at my older videos, I have been on this card since set 3. It's popping up in a ton of lists now because everyone else, I guess, is finally realizing, wow, this card's pretty good. Yeah, you bet your butt it's good. I love this card. This has always been a staple and a favorite of mine. And it's one of those weird cards, too. I don't know if you have any of these in your decks where despite only running one copy, it just seems to want to find its way into my hand. I remember when I used to play red-blue, part of the reason I found this deck frustrating is because despite running 4 popsicles, I just wouldn't draw them. Somehow I wouldn't draw them. I'd always draw the 1 or 2 lucky dimes I had early and just junk my hand up, but I just couldn't draw the popsicles. Well, fish hook's kind of like that lucky dime for some reason. Like, it always seems to find its way into my hand, and I'm always grateful to have it. It's just a really solid card, especially when Maui can use it for free. Is it perfect? No. Yes, it can feel very expensive. If they're going aggro, you don't really have time to set this card up, but in those long, protracted games, the Challenger +3 is usually just that sweet spot of damage that you need. Lets Maui take out a McDuck Manor completely by himself. It's just enough to let Elsa and Peter Pan trade with a Maui Half Shark. And then the evasive till the start of your next turn matters. That suddenly, now if they don't have a way to challenge evasives, you can protect a card. I've so many times, okay, Tremaine, quest for 2. She's a 2-lore quester, and make her evasive with the fish hook. What are you going to do? So I love this card. It makes me really happy to see it in so many lists. And, I just get to gloat a little because it's like, hey, I've been on this card forever. Finally, last but certainly not least, Library and Queen's Castle. Purple still has some of the best locations in the game. McDuck Manor just with extra effects. And they do what locations have always done, that a lot of times I will put out Library early. Sometimes, especially if my opponent's going kind of slow, I really like the triple 1-drops. I'll open Diablo, then I'll put out Chernabog and another Diablo, or maybe a Broom Diablo, and then turn 3, I'll just set the Library out. And if they're having a slow start, oh my goodness, you can take advantage of it. Turn 4, you just move them all in there. Turn 4 in general, if you have any kind of 1-drop, like let's say if Chernabog out, you spend 3, put the Library out, use your 4th ink to then move them into the Library, use his effect, instantly draw 2 cards. So powerful. And the Queen's Castle, the difference between 2 lore and 1 lore is insanely noticeable, and there are times I've gotten people to just sit at the castle. These are still fantastic after a Be Prepared because they can safely survive through a Be Prepared. If you can Be Prepared, next turn follow up Castle, Library, or maybe even Castle another threat, and they try to go wide to enter it, and you got that second Be Prepared, the game's pretty much over. So it makes me happy, just like the fish hook, to see the Queen's Castle coming back because I've always loved this card. So there's nothing groundbreaking here. If anything, if I were to describe this list, it's kind of a catch-all Ruby Amethyst. Like it's trying to keep everything in mind. The Dragonfire for those big threats. We've got enough evasive to answer some of the evasive threats. I've actually found this has performed very well into the evasive list. I think that list is fun, and it is faster than this list, so it's a little better against some of the grindier lists, but it cannot outgrind the way this list has and perform for me. So I really love it. I'll put the link in the description below if you would like to see this page and copy it. But it's been a ton of fun, and I was very grateful to win a second set championship with it. So let me know how your first weekend of set championships went. If you plan to play in any more, what decks are you on? Are you going to switch decks? Or are you more, you know what, I'm just going to pick a deck and I'm going to stick with it and ride or die all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please give a like and subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 2,000 subs, and your help can get us there. Check out the description of the video for links to our Medify page where we offer private coaching, and consider becoming a patron or YouTube member for exclusive bonuses. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.